It's early March and the weather has been quite warm and really beautiful here in Ohio. Now I've been spending time in the garden getting the beds rearranged, and something's been coming in overnight and digging in them quite regularly. But the warm weather has made me well ahead of the spring schedule, and it's been fabulous as it gives me time to really think about the upcoming season. But this is the year that I'm going to do more than just plant a couple of seeds in the garden bed. Last year, they were not big successes for me. It's obvious that I am just totally new at this homesteading thing, and that is a term which I use rather loosely. And this is the year that I am realizing that I need to sit down and get a picture of what my resources are and how I best want to use them for the upcoming year. I have this 1960s pressure canner, which was found in the attic of our home. It's complete and it's never been used. But the reality is such that I don't really like the lengthy process of canning, so I want to keep that to a bare minimum when I'm planning out our garden. My two most favorite ways to preserve produce is through drying and fermenting. Both of these are much easier ways to work with, though every method seems to have its own big drawback, and that also has to be considered when I'm moving forward. So I bought a Cosori food dryer. Now this is a nice little unit, and I have a thrifted dryer as well, which works in a pinch, but not much else. And I have a tabletop unit that has a drying option on it as well. Fermenting is done best with the proper tops and weights. Along with my two favorite canning jars that I use for this process, shown here is a 16-ounce jar and the favored 24-ounce jar, and both of these fit the fermenting weights absolutely perfectly. So it is apparent to me at this moment that I have three different lists I need to make. And the first is what to buy off the shelf and store in my pantry, because this is in fact the easiest methods for these particular items. The first is, of course, tomatoes. Now these run about $1 per can, organic, diced with clean ingredients, so no real need to grow Romas this year. Then of course you have corn, beans, various fruits, and sometimes green beans. These aren't worth the effort to grow when I have limited space in the garden, and they are rather cheap to buy and just store on the shelf. And my next list is buy local and dry. And as it turns out, I am very fortunate to have an awesome local farmers market that turns over its produce very, very quickly. Now this place is busy at 8 a.m. on any Tuesday morning, and the weekends are so crazy you can't get a parking spot. But the flip side is that they have great offers on tons of local grown produce. And it looks like I missed the deal on cabbage on Tuesday, but I managed to snag one of these on Friday. Normally the price is about 59 cents per pound, which is still really good. As for carrots, those are a no-grow item for this year. I find way too many big deals on 3 and 5 pound bags. I use my dried carrots for making bone broth, and this is the same with celery as well. I dry the leaves and the leftover stalks, and this comes in handy for all kinds of things. I don't really use many green peppers, but I did find these really cheap cubanas at the market, and I snagged them in a hurry. I now have these dried in probably a year's worth in storage, and they will be used largely for seasoning. And it's at this market where I plan to grab the larger onions, the asparagus, the broccoli, the garlic and ginger, all because I can dry any of these items for future use without using up my limited garden real estate. And this is where the Dehydrator comes in handy. And here's a sample of some of the things that I have dried in the past. The carrots, I am now in the process of refilling them from the 5 pounds that I bought, and this is exactly what 5 pounds of dried carrots look like. All of this should last about a year. This is my homemade onion powder. It's made from the discards of onions that are cut up for cooking. Drying the ends and the skins makes this reddish colored powder that has a wonderfully delicate flavor. And because I only use discarded ends and skins, well, this stuff is practically free. And this is my zucchini, almost spent for the entire year. I also have dried celery, celery powder, green peppers, dried broccoli, and finally dried tomato powder, which can be used in place of tomato paste. I have covered fermenting in a previous video, and it's a simple way to preserve vegetables for up to 6 months, as well as providing a very good source of probiotics for the benefit of a healthy microbiome. I highly recommend learning the complete process as it's pretty easy. What you see here are a few of my new ferments using turnips, asparagus, and red potatoes. And someone asked me to publish the recipe for my fermented onions, so I placed the recipe in the description for you to try out sometime. Now this is one of the easiest ferments out there, and today, just for fun, I added some lemon to the onions just to shake it up a bit. Ferments are safest when all the content is held securely under the water in the jar. I was in a bit of a hurry to jar these up today, so I'm going to watch carefully to make sure that the liquids come up above the contents. Now, there shouldn't be any problems, but a little extra care goes a very long way. And that's it. Sit it on the counter for a week or so, and then pop it into the fridge for an extra week or two, and you can enjoy these with whatever you like. And I am never without them. And finally today, the most important part of this video is right here, where I now know what to plant for the garden this spring. And well, since I have figured out what resources I have for preserving, I'm going to go through my seed stash, picking and choosing what's going to get planted. So yes, it's a lot of consideration, but taking the time to plan has greatly helped me to narrow my focus for the small space I have this year. So of course I have sweet peppers, and I'm starting these in March inside, so they are nice and ready to plant when it's finally June. I've decided on wax beans because, well, I prefer these over the basic green bean. Tomato plants such as the Kellogg's Breakfast, which is a type that I love for making my tomato soup, and then a small cherry tomato that I can dry and make into tomato powder. And I won't be canning any tomatoes this year, so I'm not growing any Romas. And there, of course, will be a number of herbs in the forms of basil, oregano, lemon balm, dillweed, thyme, and hopefully this year we will have sunflowers yet again. And then, of course, zucchini and acorn squash. And the hope for the garden this year will be the butternut or winter squash. I'm most looking forward to much more of that soup. I hadn't made it in years, and I'd forgotten just how really good it is. So that's it for me today. I'm going to enjoy a bit of the cold air, warm sun of March and do some additional weeding of the raised beds, but certainly not before I begin to sow some of my garden seeds for this summer. And if you've made it this far, again, thank you for stopping by. Please like and subscribe to see more content on slow and mindful living for the well-curated home, here at The Artful Homestead.